some of this stuff you're not going to know, right? You're not going to know before you reach out what some of these things are, but it's about like not making assumptions and not jumping to, hey, here's what I want to do. Word vomit. I want it next week, like ask the question, hey, I have this thing I'm designing. Here are the specs. Here's what it looks like. Here are the materials it has, or I need you to provide materials. What is your general timeline for this? What is your general MOQ for this? So if you don't know, ask the question, ask it in a logical, inquisitive way. But asking those questions in the first place also gives the factory the indication that, like, you know what you're talking about. Do you have a brilliant product idea, but don't know where to start to get it made? Or are you looking to level up your product, but afraid to take it overseas?
If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Jackie.
And I'm Erin. And we are
the Sourcing Gals,
your trusted guides to everything you need to know about sourcing, manufacturing, and scaling your product overseas. Whether you are just starting out or you've been making your own product for a while, we are here to help women source products overseas without the overwhelm.
In each episode, we'll share insider tips, actionable strategies, and inspiring stories to help you source more effectively, save time, and boost your profits. Duh! We know how hard it can be to juggle the ins and outs of product development, but don't worry, we've got your back.
So grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into how you can grow your business,
make more money,
and turn your products into profit. Welcome to
the Sourcing Gals. Now let's get started. High five.
Hi.
Tired of paying for international wire transfers? So was I, and that's exactly why I switched to Mercury. With Mercury, I never worry about fees for domestic or USD international wires. The platform is free, super easy to use, connects seamlessly with QuickBooks, and their credit card perks are hard to beat. I can spin out new cards instantly for my team, earn 1.5% cash back on all purchases, and right now they're even offering a 2.5% cash back on any ad spend. Terms apply. So stop paying fees and start putting money back in your pocket with Mercury. Learn more and sign up today using the link in the show notes.
Hello and welcome to another episode of
The Sourcing Gals.
Okay, this is different today. So we are here recording live from this amazing place called The Loom. It's owned and run by the Columbus Fashion Alliance here in Columbus, Ohio. They are doing amazing things in the fashion industry, incubating new startups, teaching. The space itself is going to be this dynamic co-working space meets workers, maker space.
And even in this classroom here, we have more light than we do in our podcast studio.
Yes.
So I think we might just come and do all podcasts.
Yeah, I think Yogi needs to add a podcast studio. I know he has a TikTok live or a selling studio, so maybe podcast will be next. But we're so excited to be here with a crew of entrepreneurs. They are product founders, whether they're in their ideation stage or some have already launched. And so we're here to just really educate, share our knowledge from the industry.
Somewhere along the journey. And this group's called the Launch Lab.
The Launch Lab.
And we're so excited. We're going to talk today about, it's going to be a founder crash course, and we're going to be talking about supplier relationships, timelines, negotiations, and avoiding expensive mistakes. So kind of a lot of the stuff that we talk about as the Sourcing Gals, but put together in an educational format for this class.
We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of a lot of the conversations we're going to have today. We're going to skim the surface on a lot. You guys let us know if something's really ringing a bell and you want to dig a little bit deeper, okay? But let's start here. Most problems stem from poor communication and lack of clarity versus actual manufacturing issues or limitations. So we're talking about how poor communication or lack of clarity from a founder to a factory could potentially be the bigger issue than your factory not being able to make the goods themselves. So let's dig into what that means.
Right.
So we really think it's important to come in on your founder journey, when you are ready to start looking for an actual factory, that they take you seriously. Right? We want them to know that you are professional about this, that you are organized about this. So we're going to talk through a couple of the green flags and red flags as it comes to what helps make a factory take you seriously on that first order.
So this is a hurdle that we see a lot of people encounter very early on. They reach out to someone, they're like, hey, I have this idea. And it's just kind of like word vomit to the factory or to the manufacturer. And then they just get back stuff that they don't want. They're misunderstood. So reaching out with very clear product specs, realistic timelines. In this program, a realistic timeline would I don't know, look like a 60 days ish, 60 to 90 days ish. But organized communication, consolidated feedback, decisive approvals, understanding timelines. So I say all that, you can see it behind me, but I say all that because some of this stuff you're not going to know, right? You're not going to know before you reach out what some of these things are, but it's about like not making assumptions and not jumping to, hey, here's what I want to do, word vomit. I want it next week, like ask the question, hey, I have this thing I'm designing. Here are the specs. Here's what it looks like. Here are the materials it has, or I need you to provide materials. What is your general timeline for this? What is your general MOQ for this? So if you don't know, ask the question, ask it in a logical, inquisitive way. But asking those questions in the first place also gives the factory the indication that, like, you know what you're talking about. If you just say, like, I want to make something, help me. Like, that sounds very, like, why would I do that? But people do that all the time. Like popping in on Alibaba and just saying, like,
Yeah.
can you help?
And I also think now with the use of AI, it can really be really be a tool to leverage. Like you could literally do your word vomit into chat and say, I'm trying to reach out to a factory overseas. Can you help me rewrite all the thoughts I have in a coherent way that a factory is going to understand? And guess what? Chat will do it.
I also very often say, please write this for someone for whom English is not their first language. Just certain words where it's like the nuance of the word we would understand as native English speakers, it would be lost on someone who's not. So I make sure to type that into chat as well. And then I would just say, like, really ease down like any like larger words or language. I try to simplify as much as possible.
And this is kind of moving from that conversation. We are huge, huge believers that the relationship with your factory, your vendor, whether they're stateside or overseas, should be relationship driven, not transactional. So let's talk a little bit about what that means here. So what I would consider a transactional relationship with a factory or a vendor is you're just chasing for the lowest price. You're pushing them like you're making this for me, right? You are switching factories constantly because you're just not finding the right one and they're not happy with what you're getting here. Communicating only when there's a problem. Maybe you're not telling them the good things happening, whether that's within the production, what you're happy with them about, or even within your business. Maybe you're not giving them any forecasting. They have no idea what your business plan is. It's, I have this product and I'm going to make it. I need someone to make it. Very like clear, clean, distilled down, not a lot of loyalty or really like conviction coming through in that email to them. Where we believe your vendor, your factory should literally be your third partner. Like imagine them like a business partner to yourself. Tell them what you're building. Say, hey, I am a startup founder. Here is my vision. While I might be starting with 200 units, my goal is to become a TikTok shop top seller, and I'm planning to sell 1,000 units and do 12 drops a year, one a month, and eventually the goal is to get to a unit count of X. Like, cast your vision for them. They are business owners too.
Right.
Factories are not like there's people on the sewing line doing the execution, but someone owns that factory, and trust me, they are a business person. Okay, so we're talking to you about how to treat your factories, but I think a lot of questions get asked about, well, how do I find a factory, right? Big question. So we're going to give you a couple ways that are our favorite ways to find factories. These are first going to be spoken about. Actually, the first one covers both domestic and overseas. And then we'll also talk about made in the USA versus overseas. Because as you can probably tell, Erin and I are talking a lot about overseas development. That is majority of our background has been products made overseas. You've also heard us say 250 units. So you can still start small. And there are some vendors overseas that will start even lower than that. Okay. Sure. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But first things first, one of our favorite things to do is trade shows. So we believe that trade shows are a huge opportunity, a great way, whether you're just starting out or even if you're midstream in business and you're looking to scale. Mm-hmm. We attend a show called Sourcing at Magic. It's in Las Vegas. It is twice a year. It is free, y'all, like free entrance. You just have to get a ticket there. And there are plenty of affordable hotels in Las Vegas. I'll tell you that. It's twice a year. It's in the spring. It's in the fall. It'll be in August coming up this year. If anyone goes, be sure to hit us up. We're there. We speak at the event. We take clients and walk the floor. It is literally, if you can imagine, a floor, a whole showroom of 10 by 10 booths of every single factory from across the globe.
If you didn't have an idea before going to the show, you will leave the show with an idea. You'll be like, I have a new product idea and I'm doing all of this.
And it is everything.
It can really take over.
Yeah. And it's everything from fabric development. If you're like, my brand needs this really specific fabric and I know exactly what it is in my head, but I got to go find it. There will be booths that are just fabric. There will be full made garments, which means there's already existing fits sometimes to start from. A lot of times with our founders, we're not reinventing a t-shirt wheel. They just want it in a heavier weight. They just want to add a certain wash. They just want to add a different print or treatment to it, right? So you will see vendors that have so many t-shirts in all different weights and all different washes for you. So my point is, it's kind of like shopping. Like you are going and you are shopping. If you want a factory in South America, USA, China, Philippines,
Turkey, Japan.
Name the country. It's broken up literally by country. And you can go and talk face to face with the factory owners, the factory employees. And it is a way to have an entire conversation. What might take a couple weeks of back and forth information via email, you can literally have it in 10 minutes face to face with them, including pricing.
Yeah.
Question. Yeah. Are there also place events, trade shows to wholesale your brand? And what's interesting about sourcing at Magic, that is one side of the show. The other side is literally called Magic, which I know it's a horrible name, but it is called Magic. It is a fashion wholesale trade show, which means you as a new emerging brand, and then brands that have been around for 20 plus years,
right,
they will have booths there. And by the way, for new brands, they're lower priced. Yeah. So again, the wholesale markets, definitely in Atlanta, definitely LA. And I'll tell you that if you follow Magic, it's called Informa Markets. And if you go to their website, Informa Markets, their sourcing and their Magic shows happen actually all over the country.
Yeah. So
the wholesale side is really in a lot of places.
They have a wholesale show in New York and Nashville and then in Vegas. But they don't have the sourcing bit at the New York show or the Nashville show. They only have that in Las Vegas. But other shows, they have a big Dallas show. There's a big Dallas show, a big Atlanta show, of course, big LA shows. And really, a quick GChat or Google search, I have my own blank brand. I would like to show it at a wholesale market. Give me some recommendations. Should turn up the top, the big top 5.
And I think the biggest thing just from preparation for those is a program that a lot of our founders use is called FAIR, FAIRE. It's a wholesale website where you as a product founder, like my pajamas are on there, for example, you put your wholesale line up on FAIR, and it's basically an online portal for every buyer that's going to come to your booth. You give them your FAIR link and they can order wholesale right there. They pay through the app. It's really easy to use, super low cost. And that would be a way. If you're at a show, you want to have a way to capture the sales and capture the interest, right? They want to be able to buy or place an order for a future delivery.
The question was, is sourcing by Magic the same in Las Vegas as it is in Tennessee and New York? And no, the sourcing show is only in Vegas. The New York and the Nashville show are for people who have their brands who are showcasing to buyers. Only that side of the business. The sourcing side is just in Vegas right now.
And I'll tell you though, from Columbus, Ohio, you can get a direct flight out to Vegas at 6 a.m. in the morning on Southwest. You can do a whole day. You stay one night. The next day, there is a direct flight, late night at home, 5 p.m. So within literally 48 hours, you can get 2 full days at sourcing and you'd be covered. We stay for a lot longer than that, but you can do it, as what I'm saying, in that short of time and get a ton of business done real quick.
A ton of business done real fast. Talking about a ton of business real fast, Axio is a tool we use. This is Alibaba's AI platform. Axio, you can write in, chat to it like you would ChatGPT. You can write in what you're looking for, and they will provide you with factories that are a great match for you. I could type in something like, I am looking for phone cases for iPhones. I want them to be clear so that I can embellish them with beads. I don't know, I'm making this up as I'm going. And I want to order 200 per phone size. And it will be like, okay, here are your top 5 factory matches. Here's why it's a good match for you.
I'm actually going to take them through an example. Oh. So here we go. This is literally what I put in. I want to tell you how I sourced a bracelet for a client in literally, I think this was in 1 hour. I asked Axio for exactly what I needed. 300 custom beaded bracelets. I have 3 weeks to have them arrive, so very tight lead time. The price needs to be $150 or less. Bracelets need to be stretchy. Use a mix of beads and letter blocks to spell something out. So not even like really, beautifully, eloquently worded here. So what Axio came back to me with, as Erin's point, was a list of factories. They're giving me their cost. They're giving me their rate of how customers rate them, how their delivery score is, how many people come back and reorder from them, a couple different, items that they do, along with images of what I was searching for. So I ended up actually, you can click in these two, and then it'll bring up their Alibaba page to see even more about what they do. But I actually ended up really liking Yiwu Miss Love Jewelry when I went in there further. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to chat. And here's another hack that we do all the time. If you are working with an overseas factory, specifically over in Asia, your 9 a.m. is their 9 p.m. Again, I love getting to answers quick and fast and easy. So I did this chat, this Axio search at 9 p.m. I put my kids to bed, went on the couch, pulled out my computer, like, okay, time to talk to China. So I literally did this at 9 p.m. I did the search. I hit chat now. And guess what? I got a reply right in my messages. So I had Alice reply right back to me and basically say 300 pieces. Your price is 28 cents plus air shipping door to door. So that's 38 cents plus a customs fee. Here's your total cost. $140 for 300 bracelets. I said, great. Order can ship within 10 days. And then I wrote back and said, basically, great. Thank you. I want to use glass beads, giving her some more information. And she came back and said, how about I just make you the sample right now? I'm still sitting on my couch having a glass of wine doing this, okay? 30 minutes later, she's like, hold on, we're going to make a sample to show you soon, right? I'm like, okay, cool. They come back. I said, great, that looks good. It was for a Gilmore Girls event, if you guys know Gilmore Girls at all. So Stars Hollow. So then she said, Jackie, this is your payment link. I paid it via credit card. Order received, arranged production. Done. Literally not even an hour. I had a bracelet sourced. They sampled it for me and I paid it. And within 10 days, it arrived at my doorstep. Plenty of time for the event itself. So I say all that because it is a great tool to use if you are looking overseas. You don't have to be a professional product developer to start the conversations. It's going to pull things like compliance and things you might not even know to ask. It's going to rank really well for you. And you can do the same exact thing for apparel. Mm-hmm. Accessories. I mean, it covers all the product categories.
Anything. If you're building a product-based business and finding yourself second-guessing decisions or wishing you had someone to gut check, we want you to know you don't have to do this alone.
On January 1st, we're opening the Sourcing Gals Founder Circle, our private community for product-based founders.
Inside, you'll get monthly Q&A calls with us, access to our templates, scripts, and tools, and most importantly, a community of founders building right alongside you.
It's only $27 a month, or for a limited time, $247 for the year. That's 3 months free. You can find all the details in the show notes. Hope to see you there.
So there's just like one small little caveat when it comes to sourcing products on Alibaba or on Axio, is that you always want to make sure that whoever you're getting is the manufacturer and is not a reseller. There are a lot of folks on these sites who will buy from like the open market, and it's like a flea market kind of. Like they say they have this thing, but they only have 150, and when that's done, and they can't reproduce it and they can't customize it because it's like not actually their product. So when you're in Alibaba, there is like a little thing you can click that you only want manufacturers of that product to come up in your list results. And you would always go down and you'd look for someone being the OEM or ODM, which means they can original design manufacturer or original engineering manufacturer, so that you know that the people you're reaching out to are the ones who are making it, not just a reseller, not like an imports, exports, funny business reseller. And that plus there are reviews. They're just like on Amazon or something. Mm-hmm. Like you can scroll down and you can read the reviews and you can see what kind of work they've done and how quickly they work and what their MOQs are. So it's not for every project. It's not for every brand. We do work with a lot of brands who do not want to source in Asia and don't want to source overseas. It's not for them. So we're going to get into that now.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is we believe finding new factories, it's like dating. You kind of got to date a few people to, kiss a few frogs to find your prince. So just if you've had one bad experience on Alibaba, don't think that's the entire experience. So I usually, for something like that, I got lucky with the bracelet. It was a pretty easy order. But typically for something like that, I might be talking to 3 different factories.
Yeah.
In the chat, going back and forth. Some respond better, some speak better English, some have better pricing, better qualities, right? So you start to figure it out. If you start seeing some red flags, like, okay, there's 25 more factories in line that will take your business instead. So
like I'm looking for a project right now, and one of the factories, and it's mahjong tiles. So it's like a Chinese product, buying it from China. I want to find someone who's like the original, really great mahjong tiles. They're like, yeah, I can totally get this for you. And then all of a sudden I get a bill for like 500 units. And I was just like, I'm not paying this bill. I didn't order these. No, thank you. And I think Alibaba sometimes gets a bad rap, but I also just want to mention that there are so many protections built in for instances like that. You can dispute, you can say no, you can just like, it really is to the benefit of the buyer in a lot of cases, which for a first timer, it just makes it feel a little safer. And you can use let me back up and say a lot of stuff goes into escrow. So the money goes into like an escrow, and then when it delivers to you and you confirm that you've received it and it is the right quality, then the money goes to the factory. So it's just like a fail safe for you. And then last thing on that, because we love credit card points, don't go into debt unless you can pay it right off. But what I'm saying is that a lot of times we would rather put it on a card, get the points, then pay off that card than like use a debit card on Alibaba. That feels not right to me.
Okay, so we talked about China and Asia and overseas development a lot, but a lot of founders are wanting to make goods in the USA. Who in here is the goal is to try to find a USA to manufacture your goods in the US? Typically, our expertise is definitely more in overseas manufacturing, but there are great factories here in the States, a lot on the East Coast, a lot on the West Coast, in New York. Actually, we've met a couple manufacturers from Jersey as of late that are wonderful to work with. I think the biggest thing that we always talk about our founders is what is your long-term plan? And who is your target customer? If you have a customer who can afford U.S. manufacturing and it works within the model for you, awesome.
Yes.
Like awesome, awesome, awesome. But I will tell you, we have a couple founders who are doing it it's important to them to be USA made, but it is going to hinder the growth of their business because their product that they are trying to make is not a product that can fit into this luxury model, which is what it's going to cost if it was actually made in the USA. My pajamas are already $120 MSRP. If I had them made in the USA with my fabric and the way that they are, they'd probably be $190, $250. Like, I would outprice myself, unfortunately. That's the reality of my product category, right? And then I have some founders that I work with that are actually in like founder startup phase, and they're LA based, and they've made it work because they're direct to consumer. Mm-hmm. They're not going to go wholesale because they can't. Their margins can't afford it. And they have a luxury client that can afford to pay $129 for this specialty item. So I think what's important is, if it is important to you, vet it out. There are resources here in the States that can do a lot of this work. The question is, where do you see your brand long term? And can the margin and the business model work? And a lot of brands, again, are making it work. But those are just the things we really like to coach our founders on as you're getting there.
Another piece of this is that in the US, there are a lot of products that the US is very good at making and can make well. There are a lot of products that are not in the wheelhouse of the US, mostly plastics-based products or plastics-based fabrics. So think like an athleisure fabric or nylon and polyester. Like, these are materials that you'd be hard pressed to find in a US market. And if you are producing it in the United States, if you're sewing it in LA, they're likely still buying your fabric from overseas. So it could be a mix. It could be I found this really great fabric. The factory in LA is going to import it from Vietnam, from Korea, wherever. And then we're going to sew it here. But just keep in mind that you may have to be importing goods from other countries, especially if the US is not a best stat in that category.
And I think a lot of times some of our founders think they have to start in the US because of quantity. But I'm here to also tell you, there are a lot of vendors who will start very small for you overseas. So just things to think about, again, as you plan out your model, what your brand really stands for, and then what the market can really handle. from a pricing standpoint.
And then I'm going to say one more thing on the made in the USA or overseas. I could talk about this all night. That's one topic. But if your product has multiple facets, multiple fabrications, and multiple materials, you're going to have a very hard time in the US. And that is because we were actually talking to Mitch about this. We have a friend who owns a factory in New Jersey, and his big thing is if it contains multiple different types of products, like this trim here, this buckle there, this lining fabric, this shell fabric, these laces, these grommets, it becomes hard because you need to find every single one of those suppliers and coordinate them all together with the factory. And that will be your full-time job. Whereas in some other countries, and not even all other countries, mainly just China, to be quite honest, that factory will take that entire vertical of material sourcing off your plate and do it for you. A woman who was on the podcast a while ago who owns like a nearshore and domestic factory sourcing network. And she'll say, like, this is the biggest weakness of working nearshore or domestic.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say we talked to you about how to talk to the factories, how to find the factories. Now, before you go to actually place an order with that factory, there's some things that we believe are very, very important to have solidified with the factory. So it's a lot of information. We won't go super deep in this, but I just want you, these are things you're going to learn, I'm sure, throughout your course here. But you want to make sure before you're giving someone your money that sample is looking good. It is approved. It is exactly how you want it to be. They need to have a perfect thing on a pedestal, perfect sample, your perfect sample that they can mimic and replicate. Okay. So important to have that sample. We also do a tech pack hack. We call it a one pager. So depending on your product category, you might be able to kind of pull some details together for that initial reach out, but you want to have your measurements, your materials in some legitimate form that becomes kind of like a standard for the factory to use. And then next thing, lab dips, basically your colors. You want to make sure your colors are approved and accurate. Before you go into production, you want to make sure that your labels are confirmed and approved. An RN number, this is a very not sexy thing, but if you are importing apparel from other countries, you need to get a registered number. Is that what it stands for? I don't even know what it stands for. But it basically,
I think it just stands for registered number.
So basically, once you have, your tax ID number, you form an LLC, you can also go in and actually ask for an RN number, which basically means it's a customs issue. Like when goods are coming through customs, they need to be able to track that garment, that accessory back to your company. Mm-hmm. And not just from a paper trail. It's got to actually be physically sewn into the garment. So if you go home or look at any of the apparel that you're wearing and look at your tag, you'll see an RN number in most everything that you're wearing. So it's a tracking system. QC standards.
Yeah, you need to let them know plus or minus what's your tolerance, like on your length, on your width, on your neck hole, like plus or minus 5% is kind of an industry standard. A lot of times, if your product is very, very small or very, very large, that can vary. But I like to do a tolerance percentage so that you make sure that when they do QC your product,
which means quality check, quality control, quality checks.
When the quality assurance team is going through and reviewing your product to make sure it matches your specs, that there is a standard they're matching to. And it's not just like, looks good.
I'd also say these are good conversations to have with your factory. You ask them, what are your quality checks, points. And a lot of factories will say, we go through a first audit, a second audit, a third audit, and they actually can share those reports with you. You can say, hey, I'd love to see a quality report, an inspection of my production. And they'll tell you how many shirts they made for those t-shirts. They'll tell you how many fell within your measurement specs, how many fell outside of your measurement specs. And you can determine as a founder what you're willing to accept and not accept. Is a half an inch on the length going to make or break your sale? It depends on, again, if it's a crop and that half an inch makes it, half inch is probably a bad example, but if it's an inch off from spec, which definitely can happen, then it's up to you to choose. Is it worth it to bring it in? It might be, or no, we're going to reject those units. So understanding what quality checkpoints they have in place as you go through your manufacturing, those are all questions you should be asking up front. And then most of them do it in-house. Like they have their own teams, inspection teams that just focus on when every time a shirt comes off, they're measuring it. So the question was about if you have some quality issues, who's responsible for paying it? So it can be tricky. It can be tricky. And this is where I think the relationship piece with your vendor comes really into play, right? If this is your first order, it's a very different conversation than if it's your fifth. I will say that. When it is your first order, you have to see how egregious is the quality issue. And I know that's a very gray area.
We always say, is it brand negative?
Is it literally going to take your brand down to a level that you would be embarrassed or unhappy if you saw a customer wearing it.
Or to the layperson, will they look at that and be like, that's strange?
Now, I also say that as founders, we can get really, really maniacal about little teeny details. And we're thinking, oh my gosh, if this is off, it's going to, they're going to, you got to really put on your customer hat when quality issues come up. I've been at very large companies where we're talking about 100,000 units of something being off. And right, you have your designer saying, but it was supposed to be this. And you have, the planner, but we bought this. And you're the merchant in the middle going, okay, guys, let's all take a step back.
Right.
The customer never saw the original design. So if they see what's delivered, will they look at this and say, it is brand negative? This is a quality issue. Or will they be like, oh, that's just a different shade of blue than, again, than what was supposed to be.
Slightly different shade of blue, probably not brand negative. Slightly different shade of blue that is being sewn to something else that's a different shade of blue, probably not good. So
I can talk about my own quality issue. I just had one with my my product. So you have these thing called dye lots. So if you're ordering a lot of fabric will only so many yards will fit in, like, imagine a huge washing machine, like big drums. So they can dye, let's say 250 meters of fabric per dye lot. So a lot of times there'll be inconsistency between one dye lot and another if you're buying a large volume. So usually your vendor will send you what's called shade bands. So like, hey, here's dye lot 1, dye lot 2, dye lot 3. Well, my black dye lots were a little sketchy when they came back to me. They did not match. Now, I didn't look at one black and say, it's brand negative, but the problem with my pajamas is I sell tops and I sell bottoms. And so if someone bought a top from one shade band and a bottom from another, it would have been an issue. So what I did instead was I do have some sets. So I made sure that they took the predetermined, the worst of the case, the best of the case. I had them batch fabric and make sets within the dye lots. So at least if a customer is getting my black pajamas, if they buy today versus if they buy next week, they might get 2 slightly different shades of black, but the top and the pant are going to match because they're packed together, right? And I had a choice could I have denied the order? Again, a lot of times with color, it's a little bit in the eye of the beholder of how bad is bad.
Or you've even said that in your case, you had small units. So the mill even told her, you are going to have color variance.
There was going to be some variance in your dye lots. And for me, I needed the inventory. It was not brand negative. It just wasn't ideal, but I needed it. So I got creative to make it work, and they shipped it all. And like the customer, I've got not one complaint from any customer on it, So again, it's like really trying to take that customer point of view. If you can fix some things, fix them. It's way better than having to cancel an order, especially if a lot of times you pay 50% deposit down. That's kind of the going rate with factories. So it's in your best interest to try to find a solve with them. But if something is really egregious, if they're hopefully a good partner, like you have the right to reject the order.
I had an issue. It's been some time ago when we were working at Abercrombie where the moose embroidery had like super long legs. It looked like a giraffe or something. Like they just didn't follow. And you guys might know, but there are stitch files. So you send them an actual file, like you'd put in an embroidery machine that tells the needle exactly where to go. So goodness knows what in the world they did that gave me the giraffe moose, but that was a no. Like we can't put a giraffe moose on the floor. So we had to send it back. And actually what ended up happening is they used a seam ripper and they ripped out all the giraffe mooses and re-embroider them.
So within all these things, the biggest thing we always tell you to do is make sure you have what's called a TNA, and not that type of TNA. It is called a timing and action calendar. These are very basic, rudimentary things that any factory you work with should be able to provide for you. So the first one is your date your samples are getting sent. They should always be able to tell you roughly how long it's going to take them to make your sample once you start conversations. Then these next two, have you guys talked about PPs or TOPs yet? Okay, amazing. So that PP approval, that pre-production sample, that perfect the gold sample, standard. The gold standard. So important. We've had so many founders talk to us and I say, well, the bulk production comes in. It doesn't match. It doesn't look good. The zippers didn't work. I'm like, well, did you see a PP sample? They're like, no. And I said, okay, well, wait, did you see a TOP? Meaning when they were done sewing it, did you see one unit before they shipped it all across the country? Top of production sample? No. Because if she would have gotten the top of production sample sent to her, like she should have, a factory knows better. They should be sending you that. She would have realized that the zippers weren't working. And she would have said, redo the order. They would have probably seam ripped it out, fixed her zippers,
bought new zippers,
and done it right. So my question to you about the sweatshirt piece is, you obviously are working for a big company. So you had an approved PP. Did you find it at TOP stage that somehow from your perfect approval, when they went to bulk, they flipped the screen?
So in that case, like when you get a PP and it's great, you get a TOP and it's great, you approve it, and they ship something that doesn't look like that,
that's
all day long, it's a chargeback.
Yeah. All day. All day,
all day long, it's an I'm not paying you for that.
Your X factory or your NDC, when the goods are leaving or if they're bringing them in for you. Again, these are just basic things, but if you could have your factory follow these things, PP, TOP, and your delivery date, like you are going to be ahead of so many people.
And this could look very simple. This could look like, this is the sweatshirt I want on my one pager. I would really like this to be in my hands by the 1st of November. Could you back this up into a TNA for me? And they will back this up into a TNA for you and say, okay, well, then you need an approved PP by this date. You need to go to bulk by this date. And so you have your marching orders.
Like literally, it's a roadmap. It's your full roadmap for production. And it's going to be different domestically versus overseas versus your material. You might have two different factories in the same country, but they might have totally different lead times depending on the materials and their production capacities. So it's a really good way to plan and plan for future. So I do think this is an important slide because we've talked to a lot of founders. We work with a lot of founders, and there's definitely some consistent things.
There are things we see quite often.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that might be short-term oversights that can cause big problems, and then longer-term oversights that can cause some problems. So do you want to take the short-term?
Yeah. So short-term is just this lack of inventory planning. A lot of new founders come to us and they're like, I'm going to order 5,000. And I'm like, based on what? Based on where that number come from? And if it's like, oh, well, because I did a test order using a domestic person and I blew out of 500 in 2 days, okay, you have some data to support that. But a lot of times, lack of inventory planning with no data. We always say, like, take the smallest thing you can, do a test, put pre-orders up there, do anything you can to get an idea of quantity before you really jump in. No cash buffer for marketing. This is a big one. This is my big first mistake on my first brand, actually. I spent all my money on my product. I was like, I can buy this product. I have 40 grand to launch a home decor line. And I did. And I spent every single penny on that. And I didn't have any money to market it. And it took a lot of money to market it. For small startup brands, it's about 30% of your total investment should be on marketing.
And that's not just meta ads, guys. That's going to pop-ups and schlepping your goods to, trade shows.
Going to those trade shows.
Going to trade shows. Like, it comes in a lot of different forms. So when you think about marketing, again, it's not just all ads. It might be paying an influencer to do a collab with you or having a rev share model. So maybe you're paying for it on the back end of your product margin. So lots of different ways that marketing will show up, maybe in unexpected ways, even just your monthly Shopify bills. And if you decide to if you're an email marketer, you should definitely if you're doing direct to consumer, you're going to want email marketing, and that's another bill, Klaviyo or whatever your email marketing platform is. Just all those fees can add up. It's just, they're important, but you need them to run your business is my point. So build it in there.
And then we talked about QA process, QA QC process. If you don't have some sort of process for reviewing your goods before they ship to you, it's a huge mistake. We have so many people we work with who have gone down that path, and we're like working on rebuilding after that fact. And then a reorder strategy. It can't just be a one and done. Put it out there, do a test, do a couple hundred units, see how it sells, and then have a moment where you think, like, if you sell through 50 units in a week and you only bought 100, you only have a week left. So what are you going to do? So you kind of do have to think about the math of how quickly you're selling and then how quickly you can get into more units of what you're selling.
A lot of our founders, we're not just launching them, we're actually designing their launch plus probably their next 2 deliveries almost at the same time.
Yeah.
So because they're being made overseas, by the time they get it here, if they don't want to be out of stock for more than 30 days, they have to have the next delivery coming in, right? So it's a tricky thing, but it's just things to think about as you're planning your product out there. Okay, longer term, thinking an IG post is just going to equal sales. This was me. I thought, how hard can it be to build an Instagram following? It's fucking hard. I can tell you that.
And Jackie is like really good at it. She's like always on Instagram. She's like lively. She's doing things, but like it's very, very,
yeah. I mean, I got
hard.
2 years under my belt and I just hit like 5,000 followers and I'm like, woo, woo. So again, my jam is not that. My jam is product development, but I say this to don't assume if you have to build the community. I say start now. Get on TikTok. They love to see the journey. We have so many founders that were like, but I'm not launching for 3 months. I'm like, perfect. Like start posting the journey now. Every single thing you're learning, every single thing you're doing, get out there, start building your community now. Or if you have existing communities, amazing. You know, if you already have followers that are excited and looking for you to launch that product, again, even better. But I think just it kind of goes to the next point, like a launch strategy. Like really, what is it? Again, I did not have enough of that when I bought my first inventory run. And so I think that whole building the community journey or saying you're going to launch and, you know, launch in wholesale, right? Or you're going to go to the show and really get that brand exposure, just having some ideas.
Or even just like marketing promotions around your launch and how are you going to build buzz and like
pop-ups, collabs.
Like Jackie said, you start posting about it before the launch. Like it's about digital product, but I read a book called Launch by Jeff Walker, and it's just a good book to read if you're like trying to figure out what that launch plan looks like, but it's important.
And then the other one, I'm saying lack of distribution channel foresight. We call distribution channels how you're selling your goods. So is that direct to consumer? Is that boutiques? Is that big box retail? Is it in-person events? So you might have one idea in your mind, but we challenge you to think of like, what's the biggest version of that? Is there a future version where, again, you're going to start on e-com, but you really want to be in boutique shops? Okay, well, then let's make sure your margin, again, from the beginning is setting you up for that. So we just challenge you to think of how else could you scale this product, because for all of us to stay in business, we have to have revenue and profitable product, right? And scale. So to make this a sustainable living for yourself. So again, just challenging your thoughts on that.
I'll tell you what my husband says. If I'm not making money on my product, then I have an expensive hobby. I've had a lot of those in my day, but it's something to think about. Like you should be, and that kind of all circles back to like, where are you producing? Produce in this place that's best for you, your product growth and your brand growth.
Yeah. And we talked about margins. Again, just making sure your margins are built for wholesale. So we're going to skip through here real quick, but just also know free money exists when you're talking about starting your brand. One of our founders just landed an amazing $10,000 grant. She won her first pitch competition. She got really close. She was a semifinalist, didn't get it. Second pitch competition, slayed, took like every single check home. It was so exciting.
It was like a $5,000 check or 70. Yeah, she got all of them.
So lots of different ways. There's also Kickstarters, friends and family rounds, right? Like all the creative ways. Even Shopify has like ways that you can leverage your own money. As you start building your brand, they'll actually loan you money against your sales coming in. Okay, last, we just talk about finding your community, find your room. You're doing it here. Find networking groups, find communities on Facebook. I promise you, leveraging your people that have gone before you is the win. Like you want to go fast, you find the people that are already ahead of you doing it. And guess what? Everyone loves to share their wins. They love to share the resources. They want to share the information. So beyond this community you're building here, like go out and find it. We also have our own private Facebook group of our founders that are in, and we're just on there dialoguing. What's the problem? How do we help you fix it?
It's so valuable to be able to go and ask a person a question, because I think personally that being a product-based entrepreneur can be like incredibly isolating. You can be sitting at your desk by yourself looking at something and being like, I don't know. What am I going to do next? Like, what decision will I make? So having those people to bounce those ideas off of will just get you out of your stuck very easy and help you move along and get your dream made.
Yep.
Because that's what you're doing it for, right?
Question. God, USA.
The question was the minimum for production, for manufacturing in the U.S. apparel.
I think you'll be able to get as low as probably like 25 or 50 units with some of these factories. I think it depends probably on the complexity of what you're doing. And again, casting that vision. Here's what my budget can afford, right? I've seen a lot in like the low hundreds, but again, I think with the right partner, you could probably get even below that, to be honest. It's just finding the right person, again, that has the factory set up to do it, right? There's different volume factories. There's ones that need to do 500 for them to be profitable, the way that their sewing lines are set up. And then there's a lot of times they'll run something that small in their sample room. Now you're probably going to pay an exorbitant amount for it, but and I would also say do the math on it. Like sometimes 50 units at $10, that's probably a bad cost example, but 50 units at $10 might be 100 units at $6. And so it's like, oh, okay, when you net all the math out, it might.
If you can buy less and you're out of pocket less,
yeah,
and it helps you get started, like do it. I'll let Jackie answer it, but I'll repeat the question. Yeah. The question was for, emerging brand, is there a benefit to using blanks that are domestic and getting them printed to start out on a smaller operation than going completely overseas?
Yes, I love this idea. There are quite a lot of founders, especially if you're not, again, reinventing the wheel. And if your branding and message can come through via graphic, like graphically, my background's all in graphic t-shirts. So it's like my passion. I love me a graphic t-shirt. I do believe as long as you can find a blank that still feels on brand enough. And I'll tell you, out in LA, there's a lot of really cool blank brands happening. So I would look look through that, because there's a lot of new emerging LA blank brands that are holding heavier weight, streetwear fits, like way cooler than just your Gildans or your LAT, like all the wholesale blanks you see on the big websites.
Not to poo-poo Gildan, I have several sweatshirts.
But yeah, I think it is a very smart way to test your market, get the feedback from your customer directly about what they're wanting before you go into that bulk manufacturing all day long. Day long.
That's something that is, if you can test, like I said that earlier, but whatever you can do to test. When I had my home decor brand, I would import fabric and this locally get like 10 things sewn up, like 10 pillows, put them online. How did they sell? If they went like super fast, I would go overseas and get the rest made. If they didn't, I would just scrap it. I'm not doing that SKU. So anything that gives you the data that you need to make good decisions with your money is.
And I think about that, right? You buy your graphic t-shirt and wholesale, or your t-shirt at wholesale, you can do so many different graphics on it, test and learn. And then maybe your one investment is that sweet varsity jacket that's not overseas. And like, so that's going to like elevate your whole brand and make that t-shirt look that much more expensive too. Right. So we do that too. Sometimes
the art of the high low.
Yeah. Like piece it together, right? Where can you make a low investment, reorder quickly? And then where do you need to make a true custom piece? So I think it's super smart. Big fan.
Yes.
Okay. No. We'll go fast.
I've made in every country that has manufacturing. If I'm going to do a luxury leather handbag, I'm going to go to Italy. If I'm going to do something that is plastics or is nylon, I'm probably going to go to China. If I'm going to do gemstones and gold, I'm probably going to go to India. So it really depends on what you're making. And that's why we say, like, do the thing that's best for your brand. If you're doing cotton, 100% cotton goods that are cut and sewn, US might be a good bet for you. But
yeah, and our hack is when you go shop the category that you're looking to be an emerging, like, hey, I'm going into athleisure where I'm going to go to the big brands. I'm going to go to some small brands and look at the tags. Where are they made?
You're always looking at it.
Almost, I'd say 90%, aside from at Abercrombie, I worked in Peru, 90% of the products I work with are out of China. And I still think it's best quality, best timing, best costing around for, again, apparel world that I'm in. Now, if I have a client that wants super organic, gauzy vibes, like India all day long. So again, that's where Erin can come in and say, depending on the country, but I always say, look at your market, look at where things are being made. And most likely, if 90% of the items that you're trying to do are being made in one country, it's probably a good country to start with.
Yeah.
India has if we switch to India for low quantity, they have very, very low minimums.
Do you guys know the brand is Belmorant? Okay, so like high-end designer. So like I toured the factory one time where they were doing hand beaded skirts, and they had bought like 15. Granted, the skirts cost like $125 a piece, probably.
But even like those beaded earrings and beaded bags that we were looking at, they're like 25 units. Yeah. Like 25 units per design. Like we'll make them. So I think, again, you go to a vendor saying, what's your minimum? Where can we start? But the goal is that you're going to grow from there. Right. And then they want to grow from there too. So it's like finding that factory that can do the small and grow with you. right? But that can achieve the capability that you want. So I do think for what you're talking about, it's going to be hand done. China is not a hand done place. They are a manufacturing machine. They need to be able to automate. That's how they get their costs so low. That's how they go so fast. So what'll happen out of India though is it'll take you 90 days production, where China might be 40. So, and especially if someone's doing something hand done, like that's just, kind of what happens. But, Magic is in August. We're in almost halfway through May. So it's really not that far away to like even be thinking about it. If you could,
if you can swing it,
can swing it.
So if you think about an economies of scale, if it's a machine made product and you make 200 versus if you make 2,000, it's going to take them about the same time. But when it's a handmade product, you really just have to extend the period of time.
So you can find someone, again, if you think about like an Alibaba, or an Axio, if you use their AI agent, you can find someone who's doing the silhouettes that you like and seems to be at a little bit higher price points. And you can say, I'm looking for a factory that does luxury wear, right? And that you find the overall silhouettes that maybe they're doing stretchy knits, leggings, high denier fabrics. They're called like really good stretch and recovery. And then to Erin's point, then you're saying, I'm going to send you my samples. They might have something already similar, or they can go find it or source it for you. So I think it's starting with a factory that's making something
Similarish, yeah.
And then also, again, getting some really good fit technology behind it here. Getting a good partner.
A great fit.
Yeah.
Tech designer.
Yeah. Yeah.